Hello, everybody. Hope everyone is all right. WWV 25 megahertz coming in really well on the Yesu. Thank you for the audio check, Rob. Got a couple of famous people in the chat room that have got their QSL cards after having ham contacts. Yours is in the mail. Let me check that out. Everything's okay here. Everything's all right here. SDR is running here. I got the ATS 909X2. So pretty cool. And so let's check it out here. Is okay. Okay. Hey, everyone. Welcome aboard to this shortwave radio channel and some shortwave radio show, of course. We're going to, this is a little high here. Let's put this a little more like this. We are here to talk about radio, and we are live every week on Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time. And we just have fun and share the fantastic hobby of radio listening, shortwave radio, but radio in general. It could be, amateur radio, shortwave, but VHF, long wave, medium wave, UHF, whatever. And we have a lot of fun talking about radio. It's a lot of fun to be here. And just a little cheers with my sparkling water and cranberry juice, no alcohol, once again. This is good. I was thirsty. So my name is Jill. I'm located in the northeast part of North America, Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And we have a lot of fun tuning the bands, talking about radio, listening, and just sharing what we love and our passion together. And it's pretty cool. There's a chat room if you want to join in. Lots of wonderful people. Once again, just great to have everybody here. And it's always cool to have all of you, of course, on board on this live show. And of course, once this party is over and the live show, we have the Facebook group where we could see, continue having the fun, continue sharing about, radio in general and so on. So it's pretty cool and great people. If you are new to the hobby, I think it's the best place because everybody's helpful and just wants to share what they actually are doing and they help out. It's really cool for that. So why not check it out? The Facebook group is the same name as the channel here, which is official SWL channel. And of course, after a sneeze, we talk about radio in general. So welcome aboard, everyone. Nice to have everybody here and hope that you will have fun today, as we usually do on this Saturday live show. We finally have the registration information for the Shortwave Winter Fest. That's coming up on Saturday, March 4th. So it's $5 to get in, and which is not expensive because you'll have a full day of some really cool presentations. The first one of the day, that's at 9:30 a.m., which is 14:30 UTC. Jeff White of WRMI. It starts with this presentation, the first presentation of the day. There are several presentations throughout the day. There also is CIDX that has the basically the companionship place where we actually You can, if you don't like a presentation, you can go to the suite that CIDX has to just, hang around, have fun with others, talk about what you want. So the hospitality suite will be open the day before. So that means that on Friday evening, if you want to have a little, kind of start to what the weekend's all going to be about, you can join in to the hospitality suite starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's 01 hours UTC. Friday night. It'll go on as long as it goes. And we'll be a bunch of guys having fun talking about a radio. And that's going to be the hospitality suite. Will also be all day on Saturday, going into, if it's like last year, going into the wee hours of maybe Sunday morning. And there we have a lot of fun. So you can jump into the hospitality suite, go into the presentations. If a presentation isn't exactly what you want, you can come back and share with others. Me, Sheldon Harvey, and Mickey Delmage will be in the hospitality suite, sharing duties of saying hello to everyone. And of course, there's all the presentations. So for that, well, you go to the Shortwave Fest page, and there you will have the registration. Like I said, $5, really not expensive for a really, really cool day of radio and having fun. For those that are here in Canada, it's exactly $7.05. This is what it cost me for the $5 US. And it's a great moment. It's been in a virtual way for the past 3 years now. Pandemic happened. It used to be a in-person event. This year, of course, they started thinking about, do we do an in-person event? And the hotel where it was happening apparently isn't exactly what it used to be. And having that event there was not as easy as in the past years. At the cost of everything, which is way up compared to what it was. Also, there was discussion about some people being, older than others, and even though we're kind of moving on, there's still something called COVID that's still present around us. So all of that together, they decided that, you know what, let's do a Zoom event again, a virtual event this year. Which is cool because I mean it adds the possibility of so many people joining in from all around the world without having to go anywhere. So a lot of people would not be able to go to the official event, or maybe would never go. And now there's an occasion to be part of the event, but in a virtual way. So swlfest.com, and you will be you just have to pay your $5 and you're in. And remember that email you used to get in, because you'll have to get in the rooms and the event using the same email that you used to register. So that same email needs to be the one that you use when you get to the Zoom. For those that are worried about Zoom, because I think a lot of people might be worried about the Zoom thing, remember that Zoom, you don't need a camera. You just can join in with a microphone and that's it. You don't have to show your face if you don't want to. It's not something you have to. You can just watch the stuff. You don't even have to interact with anyone or go to the hospitality suite if you don't want to. It's for everybody. You can just join in and that's it. Look at the presentations and enjoy radio at the same time. I will probably, me and Mickey Delmage will probably be doing a special event amateur presence. So I'll be using the VE2AQP call sign from the Canadian International DX Club. There's going to be a special EQSL attached to it. So both amateurs that contact, and if you're a listener, you have an occasion to have the special Winterfest EQSL if you hear one or both of the stations. I will be doing a mix of single sideband voice and a mix of probably some FT8. I'll probably be calling CQ SWL Fest VE2 AQP in FT8 also. So we'll be doing that. There's a big contest that weekend. So we were thinking that maybe we will, if we can't find a place, because it could be hard to find a frequency, chances are we might actually call the special event on the work bands, like 12 meters, 17 meters, particularly. So that could be where we actually stand in our sending out our voice SSB. On FT8 it doesn't matter because the contest won't interfere with FT8, so it can be anywhere. But chances are the work bands might be where we'll send our or be our with our special event station. So all of that is coming up March the 4th, and like I said, Friday evening, March the 3rd, Fort UTC will in Eastern time zone will be doing a kind of a pre-event. Hospitality suite will be open on a Friday night. So I think it's going to be a cool thing to look at. So if you want to join, I mean, $5 for a full day of a lot of fun and just enjoy yourself. I think it's really not expensive. And it's cool to continue the tradition of the Shortwave Festival, which is sponsored by NASWA, the NASWA Shortwave Club, and the and in CIDX at the same time. We kind of partner here to bring you all of the possibilities for that event. Okay, Master Players Radio and Television Plus Gaming. Nice to have you here, Bobby, WA5107 SWL in Morgan City, Louisiana. Rob in Phoenix, Arizona, the sound check guy. Nice to have Jay Watterson69. Nice to have you here. Matt, MDK2 in Denver, Colorado, which, of course, this beautiful, very beautiful QSL card arrived in the mail for our contact that we made. So this is pretty cool. So really nice to have contact with our friend here. And we've made pretty many bands. We still miss a few bands, including 17 meters and 80 meters. So we'll try. We'll get it at some point. So nice to have you here. Kevin, nice to have you on board from New Jersey. We have David's Radio Room from Central Georgia. Nice to have you here. Richard Califano, nice to have you on board. Is there an easy way to record audio using SDR Uno? The best way that I would do it, because it's kind of a standard and easy to edit and change things, just install a software called Audacity. Audacity is the software for recording. This is what I use to record the International Radio Report show. And what's nice is you can edit if there's something in the audio that you recorded that you want to change or remove. It's easy to do, and it's really a full recording studio in your PC, and it's a great way to record your audio of SDR Uno. And if you want to actually record not just the audio but also the visual, OBS Studio is great. You just do a screen capture, and there you'll be able to not only have the audio but also have the visual of your full screen of SDR Uno if you want. So that's the way I would do it. Audacity for just audio, and OBS Studio if you want to record with the screen at the same time. Chuck, nice to have you here. N5 KVO from South Texas. Nice to have you on board. Let's just continue here. So we have, let me just try to find where I am. I am lost. Okay, here we go. We have Richard Califano. Tried to listen to AM radio again. Picked up a lot of stations, but they all talk about the same. Yeah, it's, the US AM. Unless you find some station that has something else, it's the band is like political to the max, unfortunately. What else do we have? We have Robert Varner. Nice to have you here. We have Jasmine. Nice to have you here. We have Richard says, welcome from Richard in Northeast Illinois. Joel, as always, had a habit of listening to stations that are foreign to him. Yeah, pretty much. Greg, nice to have you on board. Hello there. Art Dodd, nice to have you on board. K2ADC 000, nice to have you on board. We have Jasmine says, who had ham radio W SBR balloon cause UFO shoot down? It's I thought about it. There's a lot of these balloons that are sent out. The Pico balloons don't have to be registered because you have the standard balloons with the weather balloons, but those are registered, so you can check out if a weather balloon, for example, was sent from a certain area, or a big balloon where it was launched from, because you have to warn. But on the Pico balloons, which are very small, you don't have to tell anyone. So there's a lot of them in the air, and they are often metallic looking because of the way that they're kind of party balloons. And they can last a long time. I was seeing that they can do several turns around the Earth before actually degrading enough to come down. So, I think we gotta relax a little bit. Trevor, nice to have you on board. Says that one nutty Milton channel is at 15555 upper sideband. Still wonder who listens to that, except for us that just go over it from time to time. Greg says, a Catman Greg saying hello from Southern Illinois. Nice to have you here. Joanne Dumbrow, nice to have you on board. And what else do we have? Yeah, we passed the World Radio Day, which was on the 13th. So it was on, what is it, Monday? It was on Monday. DJW 883, nice to have you on board from Southeast Pennsylvania. Jasmine says hello from not so sunny Seattle. Skip, nice to have you here. And 2EI, working 10 meters in New Jersey. Oh, yeah, 10 meters. I made tons of 10-meter contacts this morning. 12 meters also. There's a lot of stations. There was Malawi. I saw Malawi. I saw Angola. I saw Algeria. What did I see? I probably made 20, 25 contacts with European stations. Germany, Croatia. I had a couple of Russians. So really cool propagation on 10 meters. RJD Dakota, nice to have you on board. WA0113SWL from Winsville, Missouri. Nice to have you here. We have J Projects. Nice to have you here. We have... Man. This is a pet mignon just before the live show. I think that's what's happening. David P. Miller, nice to have you here from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Glenn Zekman, nice to have you here. Joao Castanera, nice to have you on board from Brazil. Matt says, I registered about an hour ago. Will be a loaded day, and I'll have to get up earlier than usual. Yeah, because the presentation, if you want to miss Jeff White, 9:30 a.m. Eastern in your neck of the woods is what? You're what, 2 hours behind in Colorado? Maybe 7:30 a.m. local, 6:30 in the West Coast. It's kind of early. Bobby will register when he gets his money. Cat Dude, could you please recommend the best FM AM pocket radio? There's a small Sony portable and a small Panasonic portable I've seen on Amazon that gets pretty good reviews. Let me just check here. I saw something. Depends how portable you want it. I've been checking out a couple here. Let me just check if I go to Amazon and see for AM FM Pocket. There was something that I saw. I'll just do that again. AM FM. Radio Pocket. So I saw something that is there's a C-Crane, but at $100 that has the advantage of having the NOAA weather channels if you want to spend, but this one's getting decent reviews, not too expensive. AM FM portable. So this is the Panasonic one. So I don't know if I can just click on it to get a better picture. So this is the Panasonic RFP50D. This one's getting decent reviews. And here it's $30 Canadian. So it must be quite cheap in the US. Two versions, one without the earbuds and one with earbuds. So at the price that it is, it's seems to be decent. Actually, you make me in stock with headphones by now. Look what you're making me do. I just bought a radio again. So I have to place your order. Should arrive by tomorrow. There you go. So if you want to know how it works, I'll have a review this week. I'm going to have it tomorrow. At the price, $31. Why not? Let's try it. So, yeah, just bought a new radio live again. AM, FM, no shortwave, of course. So there's a C-Crane that's much more expensive. That probably is very good and has NOAA weather channels, if that is something that could be very useful to you. So, anyways, I hope it helps. Chris66, nice to have you here from Kentucky. We have Scott KC2C80. Nice to have you on board from North Boston, New York. Joe Haddad, nice to have you here from Germany. We have Chris66 that says Shortwave Fest is great. It is definitely great. Definitely great. Michael, nice to have you on board from Northern New Jersey. Neil Rigby from Nottingham, UK. David's Radio Room, I like the Zoom event better. Couldn't make it in person. Matt says a virtual Shortwave Fest is great. Maybe one day they'll be able to combine it with in person, but obviously that has some logistics to be worked out. What else do we have? Greg is watching YouTube videos, Two Hands on the Radio. Robert Cross, nice to have you here. OCSRC says, where's the kitty? Sleeping in the bedroom for the past hour or so. VT Radio, Paul, nice to have you here. AA1SU from Northern Vermont. David C. Stearns says, Naswa CIDX Winterfest is awesome. Highly recommended. Best been the last 2 years virtually. Matt says maybe next year someone can organize a special event station or multiple stations like they do for Route 66 for Shortwave Fest. I know a few of us are hams and would be willing to take a few shifts. It's all in the, for the ham station, it all started with one simple thing here. For the ham station, it started with them asking Sheldon if my radio was in the same room as the as my setup. And so Sheldon said, yeah. So they had the idea that, well, maybe we could make ham contacts with the the ham stations that are at the Shortwave event at the Shortwave Fest. And I thought, well, yeah, why not? I'm willing to do it. Got no problem with that. So instead of announcing in advance, because ham radio and being out there is a lot with what type of propagation we'll have during the event. So choosing frequencies has to go with the propagation conditions and the time of day. So instead of having announced in advance what are the frequencies and times, we're actually going to announce them live during the event. So when I get on the air on, say I get on the air on 17 meters, they'll mention it in the live event. We'll mention it through the different the hospitality suite. We'll mention it, on Facebook, so people will know where we are throughout the event. And so there's going to be a mix here. I'm going to be doing a mix of single sideband and of FT8, so that everybody's going to be happy. If you don't want to talk, you can contact the FT8 station. The FT8 will also probably help in making even more contacts, and easier contacts. So I don't know. It's going to be fun. I think it's going to be great. What else do we have? Oh, really, Matt? That's the red columbine. Okay, I was wondering why the idea. I forgot to ask you, but I was wondering where you got the idea of the flowers on your card. So now you've answered the question. You've answered the question. And I know that David in Barcelona is very keen of aviation. So I'm not surprised that the front of his card has the front of an Airbus plane, the A380. So not surprised, and of course with the back of his card too. So I'm not surprised about the plane here. That is definite. So and if we ever make contact, I'm making two QSLs. I got a QSL with Paul the Cat, but I have another one which is much more Montreal-ish, with the city's Olympic Stadium on it, which makes it a little more of a traditional the city I live in landmark card, basically, which is also one that I can send out next time. And by the way, Matt, your card is in the mail since yesterday afternoon, which I guess means, because it was Friday, that it's probably going to leave on Monday morning towards your area. So we'll see how long it takes to get there. So yours, and even David, I actually mailed 14 QSL cards. So this is kind of cool. DTV says, I will be getting into shortwave for the first time soon. Ordered a Texan PL330, which should arrive next week. I'm on a budget, and I watch your review of the radio. You're going to enjoy it. It's a great little radio. It does it all. If you looked at my video of me in the park at the snow this week, I think you can have a good idea that radio rocks and really receives well. Mickey Delmage, boy, 10 meters was wide open to Europe this morning. Lots of stations making QSOs to Western North America. Oh, definitely. Anthony Franz, nice to have you here from Florida. Thanks, Sheldon Harvey, for the direct link for the Shortwave Fest for the registration. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Hope the maximum amount of people join in to that. A reminder, because last time a lot of people told me thank you so much so that you actually reminded me of this event. If you're a member of CIDX, Canadian International DX Club, tomorrow is the monthly Zoom meeting for CIDX. So don't forget, you should have gotten that email that has the link to the event tomorrow. So all members of CIDX that are watching or will be watching, just remember, tomorrow is the monthly Zoom meeting for the club. And of course, I'll be there with a bunch of other guys And hopefully, I'm hoping that some of you that maybe have never joined can join. We're a really cool gang of people, and I think it's worth getting there. So if you're a CIDX member, why not join in tomorrow and check your email for the link. What else do we have? Michelangelo, nice to have you here. Chicago Mike, Lex 2006, nice to have you here. We have Kevin Grimes, nice to have you on board. David Webb, nice to have you here. Robert Cross, more China radio, mostly I'm picking up. We were talking about that actually yesterday and when we recorded the International Radio Report show. Mickey Dalmage was part of the recording yesterday and was talking about how amazing the number of stations, and even Sheldon was mentioning how amazing the number of stations out of China that are coming in. And if you've noticed, in the evening, the days are getting longer, and it's really starting to show. We're only, barely a month away from spring happening. So this is, for me, February, March, and April, and like August, September, and October are 3 months that are, for me, the most amazing in propagation. We often have, winter's great, summer's great. I actually find that the times of the equinox, when we get to spring, when we get to fall, are actually much more fun in radio. We've got propagation from everywhere. It's just amazing. And we have a lot higher solar activity now. By the way, everybody since yesterday been mentioning that the solar flux is at 353. Don't be fooled by that number. There was an X2 flare on the sun yesterday. That flare, when it happened, if in that area they took the measure for the solar flux, that's why it registered at 350, because it did at that moment register that high, but that was just a peak, and then it fell down quite fast. The official real number is more like, I don't know, maybe 180, something like that. Actually, we'll see the corrected number today. It's just that at the time they took the measure, it was probably at the same time that the X flare happened. So that kind of made a false reading of a very high solar flux. JK, nice to have you here from Springfield, Massachusetts. Larry Stewart, nice to have you here from Northwest New Jersey. Metal Lunar, nice to have you here. Photo Sabol, nice to have you here. Where are you located, my friend? No problem, Joanne. It's okay. It was on the 13th, so it was on Monday. Glenn Dancer, nice to have you here from South Carolina. Kevin Murray, nice to have you on board from Windy, Wyoming. KK7HGD, nice to have you on board. Ron Jr., nice to have you here. Mr. Ed, nice to have you on board. Tommy, SA3ATF, nice to have you here from Sweden. I had Swedish contact today, SE3X or SE3E, something like that. SA3E or something like that was the contact that I had today on 10 meters. Metal Lunar, noticed on a 1983 Digital Technics receiver I'm playing with, stronger medium wave stations are louder than weaker ones. Is that a characteristic of radios of that era? My PL330 normalizes the volume. Yeah, because it depends on the radio's automatic gain control. So usually what happens on a radio, the AGC tries to normalize strong and weak stations. If you notice, when a station is weak, more in the noise, we don't necessarily tend to have to turn the volume up. We often hear it well and don't really touch the volume level that much. That's because the radio compensates that. So the AGC, the way that it's made, will compensate. That means that Technic's receiver, the AGC, isn't probably doing a job that it should be doing. So all the strong stations are very loud, and when you get to weak stations, you got to pump up the volume because you have weaker audio out of it. So it's really a characteristic of the AGC, the automatic gain control of the receiver itself. Probably not a great AGC, and it doesn't mean that the receiver isn't good. It could still be a good receiver, but it's just that you got to play with the volume. Some radios have that. Older radios sometimes have that also. Remember that back in the like in 1983. And if you look at older radios, look at my Kenwood R5000, for example. Kenwood R5000 is a great desktop, but it was built and designed and built in the late 80s. And what happens is that what we do today in chips or integrated circuits, back then we had to do with parts. So if you notice, if I look at my Yaesu FTDX10 and I look at my Kenwood R5000, the Kenwood R5000 has 10 million times more parts in it. Why? Because some of the circuits that the Yaesu has are all done within a chip. Where on the Kenwood back then, you had to lay out the transistors and the capacitors and create the circuit that does that completely with all the parts. So back in 1983, that Technic's receiver has a lot more parts on the circuit board than today's receivers that probably a lot of them use similar chips that do all of the main radio tuning. And so today's radio, if you look at those radios from the day, from the Technics, each receiver from these different companies, Kenwood, Technics, Sony, whatever, the Fisher, and all the different brands and higher end brands like Marantz and stuff like that, all had pretty much their own personal design in making it. Now it's, if you look at today's receivers, if you buy a sound system, you probably notice that they all, decide, just like the shortwave portables, they all decide that they're going to choose the same chip to the same parts and to this. Like, so the radio is probably a radio chip that's done by a manufacturer. And then you start looking at all the new models of the different companies, and they're all using the same chip because it costs less. Often meaning performance is pretty much all equal in the most part. So there's not as much variation as, back in the day, the 70s, the 80s. I got a Lloyd's. I need to take it out. You guys would get a kick out of. I just need to find. Well, I could just use the headphone jack and put it in the console. It would work. You guys, I've got a Lloyd's amplifier and receiver, AM/FM receiver with 8-track cassette right here, and I just need to take it out. And that is it would be kind of nice probably to see the radio AM/FM radio performance out of it. Try to plug in the ML830 on the medium wave and see how it performs. It'd be a lot of fun, I think. Put it here. I'll try this. That I would need to try. Maybe try to do it for next show would be kind of cool. I've been thinking about doing it for a while, and it just gets out of my mind. But that's like a 70s receiver, and super heavy. I mean, back in the day, these things weighed a ton, especially when they were powerful. The one that I had here, a Fisher, which had 100 watts per channel. I mean, that requires a big power supply to drive the audio out of this. And back in, when I bought it in 1989, they weren't using switching power supplies in them. They were using big gun, heavy transformers, and it was a linear power supply. So they had to use a really big transformer to give all the power. Man, that thing is heavy. Autism Radios and More channel. Nice to have you here. Ron Jr. says it was good to see 10 meter full of CW contests. Matt says yes, 7:30 Mountain Time, and the hospitality suite is open at 7 my time. So that's early. You'll need some coffee. First, Michael, last Wayland, nice to have you here. Richard Wagner, with Audacity, can you record the full bandwidth that you view like Uno? Actually, the bandwidth, the full bandwidth, that's a feature of SDR Uno. It's not the same thing. When you record a full bandwidth, you're recording not just audio, you're recording data that goes with the bandwidth, the waterfall, and all the information. So it's not a audio recording when you do that. It's very different. Audacity is there to record just the audio portion. The full spectrum recording is different. It's not done in the same way. It's not just audio. It's much more. And it creates huge files that has a lot of data on it. John Hummel Newell, nice to have you here. VE5JHN. What else do we have? David's Radio Room, the RadioWow RAR 108 is a great pocket-sized portable. It does shortwave in the airband as well. Yeah, it would be definitely in a portable, because he mentioned just AM, FM, but if you go into AM, FM, and shortwave, yeah, why not? Why not? So that is kind of interesting. King and DXer, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. Greg Scher, anyone buy the D109? From what I know, it's still not available. They say later in 2023. So they're kind of talking about it, but not selling it. So I haven't seen it anywhere. Autism Radio's listening to his local hip-hop station. Artist Alec Crafter's Kitchen and Audio Lab. Nice to have you here from Massachusetts. Did you pick up any radios at the flea market last Sunday? Well, it turned out we didn't go because of a very simple thing that I didn't think of the day before. It was Super Bowl Sunday. And by the time that I was ready to go, we, Eric, my friend Fastload, was actually had to get ready to go to a Super Bowl party. So we kind of put it off. So we'll be doing it maybe not tomorrow, now that tomorrow is the CIDX Zoom meeting. So we'll try maybe next week, but we're going to try. Kevin has got the Sangean DT400W, excellent reception and weather alert. Steve Benton, nice to have you on board. KC1SIP in Massachusetts. Nice to have you here. It's nice to see new names and new people also. Kind of cool. Mr. C's Garage from California. Nice to have you here. Patriot American, nice to have you here. Welcome aboard the YouTube channel. Linda Morgan, nice to have you on board. We have... What else do we have? So try to get here, down here. What else do we have? Try to get back where I was. Solo Keegan. Robert Cross, looking forward to getting radio like yours soon. Where do we have? If I don't want to miss out on anybody. Okay. Patriot American is amateur extra and shortwave listener since the 60s. That's cool. That is cool. Catalan Alm, nice to have you here from Germany. Trevor, LRA 36 Antarctica 15476 has active. You can use a web SDR based in South America. Yeah, they were having a special transmission today, right? If I'm not mistaken. 15476. I've there's nothing here, that's for sure. I've heard a little something out of that station very long time ago, in the 90s or something, when the noise floor was lower. Skip says no CW. Well, I'm not fluent enough for that yet. But hey, if you want to, if you want to join in, you could be the CW station. So what else do we have? Yeah, Matt, that'd be nice because I one of the things that I know, a lot of hams have older gear, and I know that not all the older gear has the work bands on them. So there's that. But definitely, that could be interesting to also have help and seeing if we can find empty stations, empty frequencies for doing the special event. That's for sure. So we'll be checking it out. The Wind 1960, nice to have you here. Jerry Chetzer, nice to have you on board. Thinking of buying emergency radio, but I would like NOAA weather on it. And shortwave, can you recommend something? If you want something that is decent in performance, with NOAA weather and shortwave, kind of difficult to not mention the Seacrane CC Skywave SSB. It's expensive, but it gives you what you want. It does come with a power supply and all. So that I don't see of any other that is as good for both shortwave, plus you got SSB and everything. So it's kind of a complete package, and it has that advantage. So they do have the new version, which is apparently better in the audio department. So that would be probably the choice because there are a few ones that are more like the different the crank radios where you have the hand crank and the rechargeable batteries and everything. The problem is they're pretty much all very average to crappy on shortwave and in performance, and not necessarily the best in the world. So I would recommend more if you want to have something good, probably the Seacrane Skywave SSB is the best for what you're looking for, a shortwave radio with NOAA channels and weather alert. Jasmine's getting some delicious chicken teriyaki and the hot chocolate while watching and tuning the bands. Cool. Cool, Matt. You should be getting it in about a week and a half, 2 weeks most, I guess, for the card. James Radio Check, nice to have you here. Rafik Pathan, nice to have you here from Uzbekistan. Bill Piva, nice to have you here. What else do we have? How can I directly reply like you with your name? What do you mean? Audiophile Tubes, nice to have you here from Antarctica. What are you doing in Antarctica? Tarek, nice to have you here from Cairo, Egypt. Greg says Franklin, Wisconsin had 7 inches of snow. We'd had about 3 inches here, something like that. It was almost spring-like for a few days, and now we had 3 inches of snow. So it's all back. We're all back to the white stuff now on the ground here. Tommy SA3 ATF says SE3X. Johan in R is, I know him well. Cool. Got a contact this morning. Like, I don't know, was maybe 1700 UTC when I got a contact on 10 meters. What else do we have? So Coastal Waves and Wires, nice to have you here. Das Greco, nice to have you here. Anyone can recommend what receiver to try after having a PL330 for a while? What's an interesting second radio? It depends how much money you want to spend and what you want to have, but there's a lot of choice out there. Just remember that if it's to try to maybe get something that is performing better, what you get on the 330, you'll get on pretty much any other getting on other radios. You'll get the same thing, but it's just, if it's mostly for the fun of getting a new radio, I don't know, you could go into if you want to continue on the Texan brand, you can go into the higher end Texan. If you want to keep something small, portable, like Texan PL368 is kind of cool. Or go to the Texan PL880 or 990, stuff like that. That's more expensive. You can maybe check out a couple of Ethon receivers, like the Elite Executive with SSB, things like that. Not the new one, which is kind of crappy. Jasmine, is there a reason why people buy older radios other than nostalgia? I would say nostalgia is probably 80% of buying an old receiver. And there's sometimes people want to have a tabletop radio. There's not really a lot of choices anymore today. There's the ICOM ICRD 600, but you can have an older, very decent tabletop for lower price. So that could be one of the reasons, but I'd say that 80% of buying an old radio is purely for nostalgia. There's a couple of radios that, even for the time, are amazing performers. Like, I know that one of them that people are kind of trying to get is a Drake, like the Drake R8 receiver. A lot of people like that, or the Japan Radio Corporation, the JRC 525, 535. These receivers are known to be pretty good tabletops, but they're expensive, even used. So depends what you want, but for the most part, I'd say 80% is nostalgia. Tarek and Cairo, Egypt, getting pauses on the stream. DJWD3, there's a test broadcast on right now, 20 UTC from lane 36. I hear it on the RTL-SDR. So I guess if you go to the South American SDRs, you might hear the LRA 36 on 15476. Fast loads. Says, and lots of software. Fastload says lots of system on a chip in modern radios. Oh yeah. It's the way to go today. They save money with that, and they just do. I mean, the Yaesu. I didn't open mine, but I saw the interior from a lot of YouTube videos, and you compare what's in there compared to, there's a lot of parts, but you also see a lot of big chips that do everything. So it compared to the number of parts in the Kenwood R5000, it doesn't compare. The Kenwood R5000 has way more parts in it, because everything is done. You got to remember that in the 70s and 80s, if you wanted to have an audio amplifier, there was if you wanted something not too powerful, there was the LM386, stuff like that. But if you wanted to have your real good audio amplifier, often they were actually done, with parts. They would just, use good transistors, power transistors and stuff, and do audio amplifiers themselves. Which today is probably even not even heard of. Today is like they're all using a chip that can do it. I bet you a lot of the power receivers today are probably using some chip, high power, good audio quality, high power integrated circuit to have the power out of their receivers. So what else do we have? What else do we have? Rafik says, big fan of shortwave listening. Don't have any radio. You can use the online Kiwi SDRs, which is kind of cool. Yeah, pump up the volume. At the same, when I was saying it, I was saying the phrase. I was like, yeah, I got the song in my head now. King and DXer got a Zenith Transoceanic R7002 from 1981 in November 2011 for around $40 US from a thrift store. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Glenn, nice to have you on board from Milwaukee, KB9IN. Costa Konstantinidis, nice to have you here from the island of Cyprus. Pretty cool to have you on board, my friend. Paul Steckler, nice to have you on board. Still use the Sony stereo receiver about 1990. Still works fine. Vicky Pelletier, bonjour, salut. Nice to have you on board. Pourrais-tu m'expliquer c'est quoi un DXer? So what's a DXer? Well, a DXer is somebody that just enjoys listening to long distance stations or signals. A DXer is simply, what we are pretty much all. Well, there's categories of radio listeners. We often put in a category the program listener, and there's the DXers. And DXers, well, there's almost categories of DXers because depending on who you are, DXing doesn't necessarily mean the same thing. But at the basics, DX simply means long distance. Long distance, that means I'm listening to WWV from Denver, Colorado. That's a couple of 1,000 kilometers from here. It's a long distance signal from here. So it technically could be a DX that I'm doing. But often we will use DX in something more specific, a more difficult and not necessarily very long distance, but in signals that are more difficult to get. So, you might not, and some people will not say that listening to WWV is DXing because it's something we get all the time. So it's almost like listening to a local station. But on the same frequencies, if you listen or hear on the East Coast, for example, the Hawaii signal on 15 megahertz of WWVH, well, that could now fall in the category of DXing. Why? Because it's a very long distance signal, even much further away than what we have for WWV. It's something we don't get often, so it's more of a novelty. It's something we get from time to time when conditions are really good. So that could be for some and much more in a category of DXing. And a DXer is somebody that chases, those long distance. In general, a DXer will be somebody who listens to long distance, difficult stations to get, weaker stations, exotic stations that are much more difficult. A DXer is not, if you listen to WRMI all day long with their programs, you're not necessarily in the category of DXer. You're more in a program listener because the signal from WRMI is usually good in most of its frequencies. But from somebody in Australia, WRMI can become a DX target because it's the other side of the world. Much more difficult to get a signal from WRMI over there than it is here in North America. So it has to do with how difficult the signal is to get, the distance that it is from you, and so on. But at its basics, and that's us making categories here, because at the basics, DX is a long distance station, long distance signal, and DXing is, and a DXer is someone that is going to try to get stations from long distance, from far away. That is really the basic explanation. After that, then we have the categories that we all have made. Some people will find that you have done some DXing with certain signals that others might say, no, that's not DXing for me. That's not difficult enough or far away enough, or that becomes much more the speculation of your personal take on what DXing is all about. There's no official, DXing is exactly this distance, this difficult, this. It depends on everybody. Alors, bienvenue, Vicky. Toujours un plaisir de t'avoir parmi nous. Matt says, my SDRs all have pretty terrible audio compared to my portables, and my portables are all pretty modern. It's all in the it's all in the processing. It's the way that the software processes the audio and stuff. Roberto Rojas, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Yeah, audiophile tubes. You've got to be careful what you pick up in different stores. That definitely is like flea markets. You never know what surprises you might get. Definitely. What else do we have? Matt says old radios are also like old cars. Guys who like to tinker cars tinker with old radios. Yeah, same thing. Same thing. I mean, there's nostalgia in cars. I mean, I'm one of those that agree that a lot of the old cars look much cooler than a lot of the newer cars today. But it's all much more nostalgia and having fun tinkering and playing around, and and there are good deals to be had. I mean, even though the price of old radios have skyrocketed and are, in my sense, completely nuts, and you shouldn't buy a radio at that price. You might not call me cheap, but I tell you, even if I love my Kenwood R5000, if I'd see one for $400, I would not buy it. I find that too expensive for an old radio. And that's my take on it. But somebody out there will look at it and say, oh, yeah, I'll give $400 for it. There's a buyer for sure for it. And you'll be happy. And that's all that counts. You got the money. You get it. You're happy. That's all that counts. But still, I always say you're better off buying something new than buying. You got so many amazing portables today for that price that you got choices that are great, and that will, you don't have to think about the possibility that you might have to change the capacitors because the radio's old, and old radios come with also their own problems from that develop over time. Look at the Kenwood R5000 once again, the dots problem, things like that. What else do we have? What else do we have? 0-100. Some of the older audio tubes are going for insane prices now. Yep, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I have a malicious question. The seller I bought it from said it's already unlocked and registered. So what would happen if I wanted to upgrade the firmware? Would I get a code from the seller? I don't think you need a code. I think if you upgrade the firmware, it's just going to start with the new firmware. The code is already in. I don't think you need a new code. I don't think that's the way it works. I think it will already work fine. Autism radios and more. I was just cruising around the bands on my St. Jean ATS 909X2, and I found some of my favorite songs. And we'll wait for the night to AMDX. Cool. What else do we have? So let me check it out here. Now you might be hearing my glass. The microphone is hooked to the same table as my where I actually have the glass down, so it probably picks it up. I see it when we do international radio report. I got to be careful because I see in the Audacity audio that everything that I do on the table is actually, you can see it on the graph there. Nice ECU FT8 graphics back there. Yeah, the famous. It's on 25 megahertz right now with WWV. So it's pretty cool. Did some contacts this morning with Europe on 10 meters. Lex 2006 has the strange AA battery packs to convert to D cell. Is that a question? If it's a question, you can buy, if you don't want to buy D batteries, they do sell these plastic holders that actually will, you could put a AA battery in it and it converts that battery to a C or a D cell for radios. It's going to work. It's not the same, if radio works with D cells have a lot more capacity in them. But it does a job if you don't want to, start buying different batteries. And it got some here in the box somewhere for like DC. I'd have to find them. I don't know where they are. Sunwave caught a EAM on 11175 a few minutes ago on the ATS 20 Plus. Bob Janis, nice to have you here. N9 TDR from Pittsburgh. David P. Miller says Antarctic test is live at 15476 USB. So if you guys want to try it out, it goes from 20 to 23 UTC today. So you can check it out. Jay Dakota, I used to have a small Sony that had strange C battery converter that I plugged into the radio. Normally took the AA batteries. So anyway, I figured out how to close the gaps in coverage on the ATS 20. So, okay. Because that's it should technically be a general coverage, so you should be able to tune everywhere on it. Andy New, nice to have you here. King DXer has the Ethan Grundig Edition Field BT, Ethan Grundig Edition Satellite with SSB, Ethan Elite Executive with SSB, and the Ethan Elite Field with BT or Bluetooth. Sunwave Elite Executive from Ethan Corp sitting on my listening post. Skip and Tuya. Oh, I forgot to answer your question, darn. I just realized, Skip, that I forgot to answer your question. I was trying to answer it tonight about the best radios, the best old tabletops. I completely forgot. I'm so sorry. You should have come back to me and said, hey, I asked you a question. I'm so sorry, Skip. Too many things. I'm doing too many things at the same time. I'm forgetting everything. Darn it. I'm going to try to answer it tonight. Maybe we could do even a survey here. What's your best tabletop from the past that's not too expensive? I know that one that can be had for, that's not bad at all, that can be had for a decent price sometimes, is the Yaesu FRG7. It's a very popular model. That's one. Maybe some of the Kenwas and the ICOMs also can be had for decent prices sometimes. Jasmine found a new dimension for monitoring last week using military flight tracking and ADSB exchange paired with monitoring the AL and USB voice channels. So, yep, lots of stuff to do. Any new nostalgia isn't what it used to be, especially when it comes to radios. Das Greco says, interesting answer. Thank you. And yes, interested in the second radio only if there is something that does something maybe the 330 does not. Honestly, the 330 is the perfect radio. And apart from the fact that you'd have a bigger screen, honestly, as a second radio, I would not even go into, if for you, if it doesn't give you more than the 330, which means you will not hear more, your second radio, maybe what you should think of is an SDR, like SDR, the RSP1A or from SDR Play or stuff like that, which is a totally different thing and works with, of course, a computer. But that would be a different way of listening and viewing radio, because you listen and you also view the spectrum, and that would be a very different thing. So maybe you could have a 330 and go into an SDR. But if you have a 330 and you go to a PL990, what you hear on the 330, you'll hear in the 990, and what you hear in the 990, you'll hear it on the 330. So there isn't that. If it's really for something more, you're just spending money to buy another radio that will be doing the same thing. What you'll get better on an 880, 990, 501, audio quality. The audio is amazing on those three radios. Much, much better. But apart from that, you've got something that's, for the price, very, very decent, honestly, for the 330. And I think I would go maybe to an SDR. That would be a different thing. It would be something different that you could use with a PC, with a computer. You'd have, a waterfall. You'd be in a different, the radio experience would be totally different. And maybe that would be kind of fun. Keegan DXer, find the field mostly for FM DXing. Earl Burno says, I find some of the older receivers more sensitive and selective. I find it the other way around, personally. The good old receivers are as sensitive. So you got good radios, and often if you have an old radio, I would not and people tell me, should I get a new one? I will say no. If your old radio works fine, and you got a Sony ICF 2010, there's no need to buy a new radio. You've got a great radio. As for selectivity, the new radios are much better. The ones that have the selectable bandwidths are 100 times better than most older tabletops at that, because you've got older tabletops, you've got to buy the filters that go with them. Yes, those filters are probably better, definitely. A filter that was in a, say, the filter for AM on the Kenwood R5000 is definitely probably the rating for it and the way it performs is probably better than what you get. But because you get multiple bandwidths in a lot of the radios today, due to the fact that they use that, those chips, the DSP chip and so on, It's actually better on those radio today. But it all depends on the and the thing is to enjoy what you have, you know. But definitely the good old ones are good, are good receivers. That's for sure. Somebody coming up to me and saying, "I got a Kenwater 5000 and it works fine," and tells me, "Well, should I buy something new?" My quick answer will always be no. Why? No. Don't spend money buying something new. Or you'll waste your money unless you want to have something new. It's like a lot of people telling me, should I buy this new radio, that other radio? It's like, well, what you have is already good. If the reason is you want to buy a new radio, that's different. Go for it. You want to buy a new radio. If the reason is I want something that performs better, they all perform almost pretty much identically today. So you got a good radio, you got a good radio. Don't waste your money on another radio. Just use the one you have and use it to get what you want and the signals. And instead, think about the antenna system. What antenna are you using and how can you improve it? How can you lower the noise? I think the biggest thing today about your radio listening is noise. So if you have a radio, and I get that question regularly, by the way, I get a radio and they're like, well, I don't get a lot of stations on it. What other radio should I buy that I'll get more? That's the wrong question, because the impression is that, well, that radio probably has its limits, so I need this radio because it must be better. That radio is more expensive. It has to be better than this radio. The thing is if you buy a Texan PL330 for $80 and you buy a Texan PL990 for $200, because you think, well, this one probably have reached the limit, you'll be pretty sad to see that the $200 radio still doesn't get more, because the problem isn't there. The problem is the limits of your listening location with the antenna and the noise around you. And so if you want to get more out of your radio, get more with what's happening with the antenna. If it's very noisy where you are, the ML830, like, a lot of people use here. I use it. It's kind of a lifesaver for some locations where the noise is so high that it's crazy. Here is a place for that. The noise is so high here. It's crazy. Take that radio for a walk. For some of you saw my video this week where I went to do my little snow day with radios, which was really a lot of fun. Man, it's night and day. What you get in a quiet environment, crazy. I was looking at that, and that gave me even more incentive to get myself one of those lithium phosphate batteries with the Xiegu G90, a portable NFED, and maybe do some QRP stuff from like in the summer days. I'll set up somewhere in a park like that and spend a day in the park, doing QSOs with a very, very low noise environment, which probably will help me 100 times more than here. And it's giving me the idea that this is going to be fun. I'd like to have something portable, and a portable station and a backpack that I can easily set up in the middle of a park, have fun a full afternoon or a full day, and a beautiful summer day. I think this is going to be fun. I think it actually just, that snow day gave me the idea that I need to go that route. It's going to be a lot more fun. Anders Gustafsson says, have Yaesu FRG 7700, FRG 8800, just for the feel of it. Speaking of old radios, These are nice. I remember I think it's the FRG 7700 that I remember back in the day watching in there were ads. There were ads in magazines, and I've always thought they were so sexy. Thanks for sharing the group, King and DXer. Tony's 78 RPM records, old music. Use Grandic Satellite 750 for shortwave listening. That's fine. That's great. Andy New, wasn't it just great when you could use a pre-selector or twiddle an antenna trimmer? Neil Toombs, nice to have you here, Neil. I'm 0CJM from the UK. Artist Alec Crafters, amazingly, radios like the ICOM ICR71A and Panasonic RF2200 proprietary ICs that worked as audio amps and other circuits. You'd think they would be all discrete components. But these companies like Panasonic and ICOM often had their own. I know Panasonic had, back in the 70s and 80s, Panasonic had their own IC manufacturing plants. So they could design a radio or design a device. And then they would ask, well, we need an IC that will do this. And they just ask to make it, and they'd make it for whatever. But, back then they sold so many of those that it was worth it to not only make a new radio, but also ask for specific parts created for the radio. It was okay. And it made the radios very expensive. But back in the day, today we're more in that world market. It's more of a, okay, well, I am company ABC. I make this system on a chip. I make this radio on a chip. And it's great performance. And if you want to do a radio, well, you can use our chip. And what you'll do around it will decide how good it is. Just look at the different radios. Look at a cheap, very inexpensive, but also kind of cheap radio like the XH Data, the low end ones that are $20-$30, and look at a Texan PL330, just an example. And inside, one of the basics of the radio is the same Radiolabs silicon integrated 473435 chip. It's the same chip. That chip costs probably next to nothing for them. I don't remember the price, but I remember stumbling upon this the silicon integrated page, and it costs like, it costs nothing. And if you buy that chip by thousands, it costs you next to zero. But look at the difference in performance between the cheap $30 radio using the same chip and the Texan PL330. What happens? Well, they use the basic chip and what it can do, but the Texan PL330 adds a lot of stuff around it to improve it and make it better and give you decent performance out of it. The one that's $30, because you're not paying, it's cheap radio, gives you the basic performance of the chip without much more around it. So it gives you whatever it can. It's okay, but, that chip needs help. It's a basic system on a chip that, added to a lot of stuff around it, can become something quite interesting and adds interesting features like, 5-6 bandwidth, easy to have RDS on FM, all sorts of things like that. So it's kind of interesting that, depending on what you do, you can have extra performance out of it. Shortwave Radio Archive. How did you study for your ham license before the test? I have been working on it for a while and can consistently get 70+%, but rarely above 80% needed for the basic with honors. First, I think what you need to do is circle where you're having a hard time. You probably notice that the questions that you are having a hard time with are always in the same category. That's the first thing. For example, in my case, where was the most difficult hard time? And the different things that had to do with antennas. and the build of antennas and the way that the different antennas and the boom and that antenna works in this way. And that was the part where I was the least knowledgeable. The rest, I mean, I studied it. I studied electronics. Giving me the basic electronics is not something that is going to be a problem for me. So you probably have part of those questions that you're good at. You know that is where you're good. That means forget studying that part. Don't annoy yourself in going back again to that part of the lesson. You know it. Focus to the parts that you're having a hard time trying to understand it a little more. And the other thing, the other thing you should do is go to the question bank and do it all over and again and again and again and again, for a very simple reason. It's the same questions you'll be asked at the official exam. And you might have a question, because one of the things that it does, it will very often ask you the same question in a different way. So it's going to ask you that question, but in 3 to 4 different ways. You'll get the grasp, and even if you don't understand it, at some point in your brain is going to be like, well, I know the answer for that question is that. And, I even grasped the basics of it, but eventually it'll come as an automatic of, well, that's the answer. So part of it will be that, but do the questions, if you want to do it, do the questions every day. Take time to do the 100 questions online once a day. Then focus a little more on the parts that you're having a hard time. I'm pretty sure you can pin down, I always have these questions good. I always miss these questions. Focus on these questions. Is it the regulations? Are you missing out on, another part that could be tricky is the way they ask questions about, okay, so you're at a friend's house and you want to operate your station at a friend's house. Is your friend, can your friend operate the station at his place? And, there's all sorts of tricky questions like that. Or, okay, your best friend is at your home. Can he operate your ham station if you are there looking at what he's doing? There's all sorts of questions like that are like tricky. And the way they're kind of sent out, they're kind of, well, what are the operation procedures? What are you allowed to do or not? What is your friend allowed to do or not? What are you allowed to do on the bands? Which bands are you allowed to do things? These are also the questions often that when you get to the ham part, as a shortwave listener, I had a lot of the basics of, where the ham bands are and stuff like that, but there's extra stuff you need to know, it's like, okay, but well, if you have just a basic license, so where are you allowed to broadcast, and what are the modes, and what are the things you're allowed to do, and, power you can use. Just focus on it and don't stop. Just continue. And remember that if you pass the test and you got 75%, just tell yourself, yeah, you're going to have to pay again, but just tell yourself, you can pass that test as many times as you want. So what I would recommend is, at least if you're, kind of getting it and you're not always capable of going above 80, take a chance. Go for it. Pay. Say, okay, I'm going to do it tonight. And try to get it. And if you don't make it, no worries. You'll tell the guy, well, look, I'm going to contact you in the next few weeks. I need a little more studying. And do it again, a month later. And just, stay in there. But the biggest part is study the parts where you're weak as much as you can to try to understand it. But I tell you, do those 100 questions every day. If you do it once a day, you'll be at the plus 80 in no time. Jasmine, I think every utility listener is a DXer. And then again, I hear the Canadian Marine stations on 2 megahertz. For me, that's an event that's every night. So it could be a DXing. It could be DXing. It's the weak stations and frequency ranges that are tough. But for somebody else, you'll say, well, you hear that every night. That's not DXing. It really depends who you ask. But DXing is anything that's from far away, and it has so many different ways of being interpreted depending on who you are. So Jasmine said, can DX also mean low power? Well, a low power will increase the chance that it's a DX target, but it doesn't mean that it is low power that makes it a DX target either. Something that's more powerful can still be a DX target. Skip says DX is anything you haven't heard before. KW1161 JRC535D is built like a computer with a motherboard and plug-in boards using Intel 8085 CPU. Glenn got CHU on right now. Cool. Keegan DXer occasionally heard WWVH on 5 under WWV. Rarely hear WWVH with WWV underneath 5 megahertz. Danny B, nice to have you here from the Netherlands. PE1 PDS. RFPI Radio for Peace International. Salut. Lundi, lancement d'émission en direct de l'Afghanistan. So they're saying Radio for Peace International. Starting Monday, we'll have shows towards the Afghanistan. Towards Afghanistan. So they're going to actually start new shows that will be directed to Afghanistan. So are they going to be in French? Will you have some other language like Arabic, or can you elaborate a little more? It'd be fun to have more details if you want. Alors, salut, j'espère que ça va bien. N'oublie pas, si tu veux partager l'horaire de vos émissions, il n'y a aucun problème. Ou la page web de votre radio. Il n'y a aucun problème. So welcome aboard RFPI Radio for Peace International. So Monday, starting new shows towards Afghanistan. Andy News says, that thumbs up, friends. Jasmine, like picking up international flights on HF is DXing even if they aren't that far away because their transmissions are fairly low power. Yeah, and once again, low power and DXing does not necessarily mean. It all depends on who you are and what you are trying to get. It's dependent on so much different ways of thinking. There are some people that are going to go up to you and say, that's not DXing. And for others it is, and for you it is. So, that's all right. Mickey Dalmage got a beautiful QSL yesterday from my WWV 25 megahertz report. Oh, cool. I remember I had the QSL for 25 megahertz I think it was the first month that they started many years ago. And man, they must be receiving a lot more with the higher solar activity now. They must be receiving a lot more reports for the QSLs. Pas de problème, Vicky. Happy to answer the question. Take care, Das Greco. So here we go. Let's go up. Let me just go down here. Where I was trying to catch up here. Shell and Harvey, DX comes from early telegraphy days when telegrams caused by the letter So many abbreviations were used. DX was used for word distance. Yep. ET and AZ in Arizona. Nice to have you on board. KC0EDI. Larry Stewart, bought the latest V3 1.10D SDR Malahite, and it is a great radio. So pretty cool. Paul, nice to have you here from Southwest Michigan. And yeah, somebody in the chat room does have an ATS 20 Plus. Greg Scherer, D109 available now. Really? On their own page? Because there's no prices and no buy button. It's visible, but last I checked. Where did you see it available, Greg, just out of curiosity? Neil's playing 40 meters FT8 here tonight while watching. So, hey, how about it's still a little early, but you know what? I'm going to do a little something, Neil. I'm going to put my Yaesu in FT8 mode, and we're going to see if you. I'm going to see if you make it. Not that one. That one is here. Let's go here. Here. Yeah, I'm going to start. Close window. I'm going to go to 40 meters. We'll see if I ever get anything. A lot of interference from all the stuff I'm doing. But we'll see if M0 CJM pops up. We'll check from time to time on the screen here. Still, sun is still setting quite, a couple of hours from now, but we'll see. Well, an hour and a half of roughly. KB7 RQQ cheap ham-fist finds digging in the boxes under tables this morning. A Grundig G4 for $15 and a Grundig Traveler 7 for $5. That's cool. So VT Radio had a Kenwood TS 940 from an estate sale years ago and had the dots problem. After several repair attempts, I had to sell it. Sold it to a guy that I bought boards from. Yeah, the famous dots problem. A lot of the Kenwood transceivers have that issue that it's shared with the Kenwood R5000 and all. WF7i Homebrew, nice to have you on board, Bert. Nice to have you here. From rural Virginia, assembling the mostly T8 63 and 6-band Yagi on a sunny winter day. Cool. David's Radio Room says, come on, give a thumbs up. We're at 175 viewers right now. Not bad. David White, Amazon S13 St. Jean ATS 909X2 returned, but with warranty for 180. Do they have a problem now? There's a lot of them that I've had today. I had another comment, and that comment comes so regularly about low audio on SSB. This is the main problem that people find. They go into SSB, single sideband. This morning, the guy that commented on my video where I'm showing mine said, when I get myself in single sideband, I have to put the volume maximum level to be able to hear what they're saying. And that is probably the number one problem I hear all the time over it. So it seems that some of them has very low audio on SSB. Mine doesn't suffer from that. Mine seems okay on that. It suffers other issues like FM breakthrough that's pretty intense, but overall, it doesn't have that. Matt, MDK2, my fancy cruise craft antennas arrived. We'll be spending the day tomorrow putting it together. Cool. Skip Array, FRG 7700. Sunwave, okay, now busy do they get, or do I need to let the radio park on 11-230? A lot of the stuff like that, like military and so on, you have to leave the radios parked for sure. Andy New, tabletops, NRDs and R8 are expensive but worth it. Keegan DXing is sharing his the furthest catches on FM. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So what else do we have? Kaijin 508. Nice to have you on board from Kentucky. We have Craig, W9CFW. I picked up a RTL-SDR blog V3. They send me to a site to download the software. However, it's not working properly. What software are you using? What's the name for adapting the connection to the PL259? So, okay, first of all, when you plug in the RTL-SDR, okay, that's the tinkering part. You need to install the special driver. So if you're using Windows, there's a driver. It's Zadig, Z-A-D-I-G. You have to install the special driver. It won't work as long as you don't have that driver installed. Because what happens is these RTL-SDR are based on a dongle that receives digital television in Asia. But somebody found that, hey, by tweaking the driver, that thing can turn into a, wideband radio. So you have, when you plug it in, Windows recognizes it, but as the basic driver for digital TV in Asia, as it usually is done with. What you need to do is use that Zadig driver and replace the driver for the dongle. I have videos on the channel that show this. If you go on the channel, type RTL-SDR V3 and the search for videos, or type Zadig, Z-A-D-I-G. I actually show how to install the driver for the RTL-SDR V3 in a Windows PC. Once that is done, then you will actually have it working with software. My RTL-SDR, I've used several software. I used SDR Sharp. I've also used SDR Console on it. And there is a little tweak also in there. So that's why when people ask me, well, why are you always telling everybody to get an RSP1A from SDR Play? Yeah, it's more expensive, but it's because it's plug and play. You don't have to do any of those tweaks. So for people that are not super tech savvy, it's much easier. The RTL-SDR V3, for what it is a surprising little device, but you got to tweak. So that's the driver. Then on the software, you'll have to tweak also for switching between listening to the VHF, UHF range or listening to shortwave. You have to choose the direct sampling, the quadrature thing. Once again, there's a video on my channel. Just search for SDR RTL V3. Look at the videos. One will show you how to install a driver. One will show you how to have it working in SDR Sharp. And I think there's one for how to have it working in SDR Console. So check it out. You should be able to have it working. But the first step really is to change the driver, the basic driver of the RTL-SDR. Blog or die, sending more money for another radio. Been there, done that. Spacebar, nice to have you on board. Richard Widner says, I'm going to buy a Texan 990 someday. Jasmine, I wonder if I am one of the few people who never used a non-SDR shortwave receiver. For sure, a lot of us came to that point of receiving, on other radios. Just gonna check something here, guys. I want to see if I just want to see if we can get our friend in the UK there. I'm 0CJM. You get a lot of UK stations. Not hearing our friend, but who knows? Maybe he's going to show up at some point on the FT8 here. Fred Waterer, nice to have you on board. And what else do we have? Any new DSP filters on the new Texans really outperform any old tabletop without spending a fortune? Yeah, definitely. There's because you have a lot of choices too. Even though they're not maybe for the same specs, they're maybe not as good because you got so many of them. It doesn't matter. You can just move to the next one, and you'll achieve what you want. They're pretty darn good. Shortwave Radio Archive, Pirate Station, Mixed Radio International on 11965 upper sideband. That's the same frequency you used the other day. 965. Let's see if I can get it here. 11965. Nothing over here right now. Jim's radio check. Reception in my area seems to be pretty bad this afternoon. Was only able to pick up one station. It was a Brother Stair. I checked the level of noise you got, man, because this afternoon it's pretty crazy. All the propagation. I'm looking here at the 25-meter band, and I mean signal after signal. Should be getting more than that. Al, nice to have you here. Alicrafters SX28. Great radio from back in the day. RFPI, Radio for Peace International. Tuesday, we start broadcast every day to Afghanistan. The program is Narratives of Afghan Women. Our women journalists in Afghanistan who make the elisions and who send them encrypted under some pseudos. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Women journalists in Afghanistan that make the that send in stuff through encrypted means. That's cool. Oh, that's going to be interesting to check out. Any frequencies and times you can give us, RFPI? Andy New, I'm astonished at the performance of the noise reduction on a cheap Chinese Malashan clone. Yes, definitely. It is. So get on FT8 40 meters. I'm being heard by VA2KS. So I'm there right now, so I'm checking out. If you have time, and I'm going to go down the chat room real fast. Neil, hang in there. When I ask you specifically, if you're still listening, maybe try to send a few CQs. They're going to show up on a green line for me. We're going to be easier to spot, and I'm going to try to see if I can hear you. I don't know if Fastload's still there. Maybe Fastload could try to get you. He's Victor Echo 2 Echo Romeo Bravo. So maybe you could try to make the contact with you also. Paul, received by a listener on Reunion Island, 10-meter whisper today, Denmark, and SSB. Not tried FT8 yet. Need to watch more vids on it. Check it out. It's an interesting mode. Matt, Mixed Rate International 11965, quite strong there. So here is pretty much not there. Oh, definitely, Carl Icon. More sensitive means more sensitive to the noise. Definitely. Spacebar has South Africa, 10 meters, 20 watts. Pretty cool. Anthony France, I have 3 Texan portables, PL368, 680, 990X, and a Sanjian ATS 909, Emily 30 plus, and receive all the same stations. Jolie is spot on. It's not the radio, it's the antenna. Yep, definitely. No Discord group for this. We have the Facebook group. Veteran Americans, Kenwood R600 still going strong. Cool. Great tabletop. Try to go down as fast as we can. We're going to try to see if we can get M0CJM. Dennis State, nice to have you here from Georgia. MDK2, the Baroque greatest hits. Now hearing Vivaldi from the Four Seasons. Bruce Corbett, N9BH. When I was a young ham, the big problem was interfering with the over-the-air analog TVs. It was called TVI for television interference. Yep, that and TV. The CB radios often did that because one of the biggest problems, if you had a station on channel 2, like here in Montreal, channel 2, which is the second harmonic pretty much of CB frequencies, oh man, that would give a bad time to a lot of people. On the street where I lived back then, there was a guy that was doing CB, maybe 4 or 5 houses down, had a big antenna on the roof. Every time he would talk, we would lose channel 2. Today, the big problem is all the devices with unintentional radiation interfering with our ham and shortwave receivers. It's the other way around. We used to interfere with others. Now it's the others that interfere with our hobby. Problem is, when we interfere with others, they could do something about it and you're in bad rap for that. But now it's the other way around. We got to shut up and just accept that that's the way it is because they don't do anything about it. Laura Robertson, nice to have you here from Rome, Italy. Tatoy, nice to have you on board from the Philippines. Nice to have you here. A lot of it is coming from things in our home, definitely. Like now I'm doing the live shows. I noticed that my noise floor is higher. Dennis says something I noticed between shortwave and ham starting enthusiasts is use of words broadcast and transmit. Robert Cross, did you test your Greenwich satellite radio since? Which one? Because I got the. Oh, do you mean the old one? I haven't used it in a little while. I need to take it out and play around with it a little bit. But it's really the all the gears that make the band turn that unfortunately doesn't work anymore. Jasmine, if you hear Canadian Marine Station on 2054 West Coast, that is very much DXing. Sometimes I get the ones 2749. Yeah, I would consider that good DXing, definitely. I never heard that one on 2054. Paul, watching you on my tablet with my Sony ICF 2010 in the background. Pretty cool. Blogger Die, CHU, one of the best stations to hear in Central Virginia all year round. Jasmine, I don't think I've ever heard 2598. Yeah, 2598 is more reserved for the ones that are really towards the east, from Nova Scotia to Newfoundland, and so even here 2598 aren't always very good. 2749 has some that are a little closer, including the one that is in the Zescoumin, Quebec, which is in the province here, just on the east part. What else do we have? Let me go down as fast as I can. Try to go down a little faster. Here we go. Oh yeah, switching power supplies are horrible for that, for sure. K6 SUD, nice to have you on board. The problem with switching power supplies is that if they would be of high quality, they could actually be good. Unfortunately, most of them are the cheap kind. David in Barcelona, Spain, nice to have you on board. Just made 2 SSB contacts with stations in Japan, JH7 MQD. Always enthusiastic. Kazusan, JH3 and GD. Always a pleasure to find him on the air. Nice to have you here. Look what I got, David, for our contact that we did a couple of weeks ago. And for some reason, I'm not very surprised that there's a plane in front on the card. I don't know why. Yours is on the way. I've actually put it in mail yesterday. So you should get it within a week or two. David White, nice to have you on board. Mad Radio DXer, good evening. Nice to have you on board. What else do we have? What else do we have? You go down here a little bit. Sunwave, want to make a 6-volt linear power supply with good filtering. I have basic electronics under my belt to do it. Cool. Fun little project to do also. Mike, WX50, nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. Blogger Die, D109 is officially released by XH Data on the website on February 16th. Okay, I'm going to check that out. Because that means that I could maybe order one to test out. Have it in a few weeks. So thanks for the info, guys. I'll be checking that out. Mixed Radio International has moved on to 11950. And I still have absolutely nothing here on 11950. It's not showing up here on the in Montreal. Neil, nice one, Joe. Transmitting FT8 on 40 meters, 50 watt. I'm keeping one eye on PSK Reporter to see if you hear me. I'm being heard on the east coast of the US. So cool. We'll be checking that out. VT Radio worked 3 Hawaii and 2 Alaska stations this afternoon on 10 meters FT8. Cool. I've had, it depends on the conditions. When the conditions are right, it's like the other day when I wanted to have Hawaii. WF7I, Jill, someday you may want to try Parks on the Air or Summits on the Air with your backpack setup. Very popular lately. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Montreal should technically be a Parks on the Air. It's an island. I have a question for you guys about that Parks on the Island. So Parks on the Island, of course, not Parks on the Air, Islands on the Air. Sorry, Islands on the Air. Montreal's an island. What is there a specific rule that would prevent it from being an island on the air city? Since we are an island, Montreal is a island. And if so, how do I know if it is already registered as Islands on the Air, or if I can register Montreal as an Islands on the Air? What are the rules that might prevent or not the city of Montreal from being an Islands on the Air? Just asking. But of course, I can register for Parks on the Air, definitely for the parks when I go to the different parks. Pretty cool. Kevin, what would be your ultimate portable NEC small bag go kit to be for radio expedition or day trip? Wow, good question. Let me think about that. So right now I'm really looking towards, having like a Xiegu G90 with, the high powered battery, and I don't know. Let me think about that. What would be a an easy small bag to go kit? Manreader DXer, for installing RTL-SDR and SATA, you need to go to device and install bulk interface 0 and then select install. Greg, thinking of getting DX100 shortwave tabletop receiver from Radio Shack. Yeah, I wouldn't go necessarily that direction because it's not that great of a radio. And if you do have one, don't pay much more than $20 for it because you'll be wasting money. What else do we have? The RTL-SDR V3, you just got to set it up properly and not push the RF gain too high. But once you choose that, find the balance, the correct balance, it's quite amazing for the price that it is sold for. So Sunwave software that will install the WinUSB that is much quicker to install RTL is called USB driver tool. Okay, I have to check that out. Neil, yeah, I was looking at the screen here and I'm trying to find. I'm gonna use my mouse again, try to see if I can get your call here. So we go here again. They're not appearing here, but remember one thing, my noise floor on 40 meters is very high, so it's maybe not that you're not making it. It could be simply that you're washed out in my noise also. But we'll keep an eye, because I got some UK stations that I see here. So you should technically be one of them that if the signal's good enough here, it should make it, Neil. What else do we have? Email is official shortwave radio. So email, put it down here, official shortwave radio at gmail.com. Yeah, HD-SDR also works with the RTL-SDR V3 as K1161. KW1161 says, definitely. What else do we have? Anything else? Jason, VE9 JMC Mixed Radio International is on 11950 right now. Ruby Ridge, what's my favorite vintage radio? I can't say I have a favorite. I would say that anything that is good old vintage is fun to play with. Would I have a, I'm amazed at the Grundig that I have back there in the back here over the chair. Behind the speaker here, I've got a Grundig satellite transistor 6001 from 1969 that Fastload gave to me. I got to say, I am impressed by that radio for that time. It's just an amazing device. Rorax, does anyone notice signal on 1610 AM at night sounds like a loud hum and New York metropolitan area. Huh. Maybe something around you. Well, it depends. Just ready to check hearing Spain on 11.940. Danny Shortwave, I should receive the new XH Data DA109 within a week. Hopefully, XH Data is sending me that radio for review. Should be out for purchase this week. I'm going to purchase it so I can actually trash it if I want. I'd rather purchase it to be totally fair. Papier Écriture, and you're out finding a INRAD 6 kHz 455 kHz filter for the AOR 7030. Yeah, I don't know where you could get that apart from maybe eBay. Danny B, also doing CQ on FT8 PE1 PDS. Okay, I'm going to check that out. Jasmine Jill, would I be correct in assuming the big difference between radios today versus shortwave's peak is the value for money? Lots of low-cost, extremely good radios and SDRs. Oh, definitely. It's never been so affordable to be in the radio hobby today. That's for sure. We have, I mean, the performance of a Texan PL330, it was multiple hundreds of dollars that you had to spend in the 80s to get something that was not even close to what that thing does. And you get something below 100. So technically our hobby has never been so cheap. And it is extremely, extremely good time for that. And thanks because, with the fact that the hobby changed so much and the amount of signals and stations is different. We're going to do something, Neil, and I'm going to try to do a 40-meter FT8. The only thing I would like to tell everybody is if I lose the sound again, I'm going to try to disconnect all the long wires. But if I lose the sound again, I'll have to say goodbye before. But so we're going to try. If Neil, if you're okay to hang on for a little while, maybe we could try that, and I could maybe try to call CQ also, and see if you get me on the other side at the same time. We could be checking that out. So if you're being heard in Pennsylvania, you're probably not that far. Here, the sun is setting at in less than an hour. You should be technically starting to get in. I see some UK stations there. So I'm going to be checking it out, and we're going to check it out also for our friend Danny here. So I'm actually going to just note down the call signs. So we've got our friend Papa Echo 1, Papa Delta Sierra, and the other one M0. Yes, great. So we've got the M0 and the PE stations. So we're going to be checking that out for sure. I'm going to see. Because here, if I look at the band, I don't know what offset, what frequency are you on the FT8, Neil, just out of curiosity, and maybe even Danny. If I look here, 40 meters is actually not that populated with signals. So I got a lot of noise, or there's not that many. Maybe I got a lot of noise, actually. So I look on the side of got a couple of stations from Germany, but not that many European popping up here. I hear mostly the US hams right now. Oh, something like the Malachite would have cost $1,000 definitely, and you would not even have got close to what you get, because that small computer inside it is more powerful than the computers in the 80s. So, in there, that little thing, the Arduino in there, is more powerful than a Commodore 64 or anything. It's more powerful than an Amiga. We would not even have had the capability to reach that level in the 80s, and it would have been thousands of dollars. So, David, I agree with so my portion on the air is what I enjoy the most. Enjoy hunting stations here in the EU this afternoon, and also want to ramp up my own activations. So, pretty cool. Jim's radio check. I don't understand why the FCC don't do nothing with the garbage on 7200. Well, first of all, did somebody complain? Second of all, do a lot of them give their call signs? If they don't give out their call signs, it's not like an FM station. It's a little more difficult to find something on HF. So there would have to be a certain amount of people just complaining about it for this to happen. So So let me go down. Greg says D109, 38% off. Cool. It's like the Bouvet Island, the expedition on that was just so unprofessional, like from the hams to the way that they acted and the way that it worked with with that. It's just crazy. What else do we have? So getting close. Just heard VE2 CED in Montreal. So chances are, if I'd call CQ, maybe you would hear me and I wouldn't hear you because my noise floor might be much higher than yours. Yeah, you don't. AMs transmit. They don't broadcast because it's not a broadcast. A radio broadcasts. Definitely, Scott says. Richard Wagner, I wonder, could you use a radio, say the PL330 hook into the IF of another radio, say 455 kilohertz? Would it be helpful, like passband tuning, but with functions, say bandwidth help improve? There's definitely possibility of tweaking. Anybody that would have the knowledge of tweaking, in the IF section and doing stuff could definitely add more features and in those radios. Probably you take out that circuit board and tweak it in your way with tapping into the IF. Yeah, probably you probably could do stuff with it. Depends how they are, how they are built, how easy it is also to tweak in there. Solitary radio listener, Semlex SEC 1235 PM switching power supply is extremely quiet. I use it in my ICOM 8600, no noise. Well, I've got the Tech Power SW30 TPI, something like that. I gotta tell you, I have no noise showing up on my display here from the power supply. It is amazingly good for the price sold, capable of 30 amps. So that's definitely a winner here. And it's a switching power supply. And it has a noise offset if you do have noise, but I got no noise here. It's really, really nice. Richard Wagner, many hams with the old surplus command military receivers from World War II that would tune the low wave bands and use it to tune 455 kilohertz IF. David, wow, that's called a surprise. Happy that it arrived and so cool and awesome to see it in your place. So it's Shells QTH definitely exists somewhere in the world. Yeah, I'm not a virtual guy. So yeah, yours should be there in a week or two because it's in the mail now. RJDA Dakota, when I was a kid, there wasn't a Fox network. When I was very little, we had obscure broadcast network called Dumont. Radio Cruncher, good evening. Nice to have you here. Emoji happy. I'm sorry for being emoji happy. Ricardo, nice to have you on board from Portugal. Robert Cross, thank you for the tip. Much appreciated. Spacebar, should try contacting you on 40 meters FT8 also. Neil says, thanks for trying. I will keep it doing as I am a taxi driver tonight for a girlfriend who is on a night out. I have to pick up drunk women later. Oh man, drunk women. Well, as long as you can, and when you have to go, well, I understand. Going to spy the MLE30 loop antenna on the ground outside tonight where it gets dark. Oh man, homeowner agreements. Yeah, 6001 is great radio, definitely amazing for the time. It's amazing what it is. Keegan DXer, my dad with his Zenith Transoceanic H500 from 1951 since sometime in the early mid 2000s. Francis Moore, nice to have you on board from the UK. Michael Joe is still #1 global radio host. What else do we have? Got Icon Pirate Radio on 6955. Let me check it out here. 6955. Definitely hearing it very well here with some music. Some electronic type music. Sounds like a Commodore 64 in action. David says, and yes, the plane in front of the car, the Air France A380, flew back on. I flew on back in 2010 on a summer trip. Back then, even though I brought along my Sony ICF Shortwave 11, Nikon ACR5, I was such a complete newbie to radio that I barely picked up anything with them. Yeah. Alembic 65, long-time viewer here in Cleveland, but only now trying shortwave, having bought a Texan R9012, still ignorant of basic correlation of numbers on dial and actual frequencies. Yeah. The Rorex, nice to have you here. Where else we are? Okay, 900 hertz, Neil. Okay. I'm trying to look specifically at the 900 hertz. Blogger Die heard the XH data D109, 3931 with tax and express shipping to the US, which means it's going to be like 50 Canadian dollars or something. What else do we have? Jasmine not hearing 6955. But Deshaun, you're talking about if it sounds like a Commodore 64 is called chiptune or 8-bit. Yeah, no, it's probably because the the it's slightly off frequency. So hey, I'm down. Raider Cruncher, love the old Commodore 64. I have 5 of them. Yeah, I got a Commodore 128 and an Amiga 500 just in front of me, and an Atari 1040. They're all fitted with the little mod for the SD card reader for the disc, which is kind of fun. No more fiddling with discs. Although I do have probably 1,000 3.5-inch floppies here in front of me. So I'm down. Okay, here I am. Yeah, it's sad because the Bouvet Island was, fun that they actually did that, but to see that the behavior of ham operators and those that were also pirating, pretending to be 3Y0J. I mean, come on, what the hell? What do you gain in trying to lure people away with fake calls? I listened to them on SSB. I listened to them on FT8. A few days, wasn't able to to receive pretty much. So it was. I knew from the first day or two that it would have been pretty much impossible. And all the crap that went out with it. I have in my Yaesu, I actually pressed the record button. I have about 45 minutes to an hour of hams crapping out the SSB frequency with all sorts of sounds and talking and not caring at all about the fact that there were contacts there. Of course, none of them gave their call letters ever. Bunch of idiots. That was so sad. I'll say, like Fastload told me, we were actually chatting live when that was happening, listening to that frequency at the same time, and he told me it hurts me on my ham radio license. And it's like, yeah, it hurts my ham radio license also. It's so sad to see how idiot these people were. This is crazy. And it's so sad. And all the trashing of people saying, well, look at how bad they're set up, and there's this. Yeah, you go to a island in the middle of nowhere and try to set up in bad weather with a bunch of friends, and come and tell me later that, oh yeah, you were able to have a great signal around the world. Man, how stupid rant that could that be? Anybody that's just ranting, yeah. One guy actually I saw in the FT8, because there's and not in the FT8, and the clusters, people can ranting and talking. One guy said, "What a joke they are on that island," and somebody posted 3 or 4 posts later. I'd like to see your ass down on Bouvet Island and make it better than them. It's like, yep, I'd like to see that too. It's stupid. It's so stupid. Matt at 69.55, barely coming in. Spacebar, I have a D-star handle, but add issues with my open spot, so I couldn't use that. Matter the extra had to swap the floppy drive on my Amiga to the USB one as my old disk stopped working. Raider Country, yep. C64 has the Pi 1541 emulator. Raider Cruncher also had the Amiga 500 plus setup. Love the old Commodore computers. I am still amazed when I look at some of the games on the Amiga 500. I am still amazed at the graphics that it's capable for a machine that was built in 1985. Just impressive. The Amiga 500 truly was, for that time, the most powerful and best machine out there. It's so sad they couldn't push it some way. PCs were really fast getting D standard, and they were like so crappy compared to an Amiga 500. And an Amiga 500 cost so much less and was way better with its graphic user interface than the Mac computers that were so expensive. It's weird how the market goes and how things go with time. I have a couple of VIC-20s. My VIC-20 was my first computer. I'd like to have one. I'd like to have an actual VIC-20. That would be nice to add to my collection. It was my first computer that I used. Jasmine, I have had this mystery for years. Does anyone know what the signal that sounds like a time on signal on 6779 is? We, many months ago, if not a couple of years ago, actually tuned it all. It's heard all over the world, and we have never found out who is behind it. And it's heard everywhere, all over the world. It's crazy. How can we not know where that comes from? John Beckham, nice to have you here from Northeast Florida. Neil says, bunch of scumbags running the Bouvet Island expedition. Ruining the expedition. I don't know what's up with people. Jealousy is what I put it down to. They need some special assistance, these people, I think. Yep. Sheeta, nice to have you on board from Belleville, Ontario. David, anyways, I'm curious with your car's arrival, Jill. Again, looking forward to have it in my hands. Cool. So, what else do we have? Zool is awesome on Amiga. I'm going to have to check it out. Artist Out of Crafter's Kitchen. Jill, you sound like my late father, who was a responsible ham radio operator that complained in his last few years about how crazy ham radio became. Proof that a license means less now. Yeah. There's stupid idiots in the ham hobby, I can tell you that. Pretty crazy. Rusty B still has his Amiga 500. Cool. Great machine. Mickey Delmage is getting weak audio on 15476 in Alberta. Wow. You're getting that LR836 station direct. Lucky bum. 476. I'm not hearing anything, right? Here at all. Nope. I will try something, though. How about trying the V antenna on the ICOM, and I'm going to come back after to the... I'm going to go here. 15476. My noise floor is very high there. Well, be darned. I'm getting music on the Yaesu 15476 upper sideband, guys. My ML830 is not getting it. My Yaesu is. It sometimes comes out of the noise slightly. If you guys want to try it, I would. If you don't have too much noise, I would try it. When it actually peaks, it actually comes enough out of the noise that I can hear it. But it's very washed in my noise floor. But I hear it with the NFED V and my Yaesu FTDX10 on... I'm hearing it now. Yeah, definitely hearing it too. Well, this is kind of exciting. LRA-36 Antarctica Direct. Matt says the problem is the lack of enforcement, but I imagine years of being able to be a jerk online is affecting people's behavior in other ways. Yeah. You know, I heard that that idiot that rants of FT8, he was on 10 meters this morning talking over FT8. Mad Raider DXer, Amigas are going up in value last I checked. Yeah. I was happy to find mine for $20 and a garage sale. Raider Cruncher, I've restored a VIC-20 and have another one to do. It's going spare, Joe. If I ever find one at a decent price, I can tell you I want one. Sheila, my first computer was a Tandy Coco computer. That was popular. A lot of people had that. John Hummel Newell says, 3Y0J kick-ass. They rocked the activation, but the self-centered spoiled brats ruined it for the rest of us. Yep, pretty much. Not counting all the operators that just didn't go by the rules, didn't know how to operate FT8 in the proper way. You know, they were saying, Foxhound, come on, learn what it is and how to operate it. And you know, it's crazy. Robert Cross, yeah, you should have a lot of Morse code this weekend. I think there's a CW contest, Robert Cross. Danny Shortwave, Radio DX. I have the Commodore 64 Amiga 500 hooked up with the GoTech and terrible fire accelerator CPU card. Oh, yeah, 7200 and 14313, like Keegan says, are bad, definitely. MDK2 says, I saw what I thought was an actual 3Y0J signal FT8 a couple of times. Never steady enough for me to jump into the dog pile. I don't hold that against them, though. No, it's not, you know, they did their best. Okay, I'm going to check it out, Radio Cruncher. Probably have it. I downloaded a huge file with tons and tons of games by alphabetical order, and they're all on the my USB stick that's in it. So I'm pretty sure that game must be in there. I'm going to check it out a little later after the show here. Man. Dennis State, what is the best way to use a metal roof to enhance both propagation and reception? Well, you could try to plug your antenna on it and see. But if you have any antennas that are a mag mount, a metal roof is great for any mag mount mobile antennas. It'll give you a fantastic run with those antennas. That's what I have, a metal. I got a metal shed in the back. My VHF, UHF antenna on that is a mag mount. Man, amazing. Tony, greetings. Nice to have you on board from Ireland. Interesting email from Anna from Anonco this week saying Texan are working on a new high-end radio, which is in development stage, which hopefully will be ready for 2024. Huh. That's interesting. That's interesting. Matt says, wait, I can hear something faint on 15476. Yeah, it's not very strong here. And keep at it because it goes down in the noise and I don't hear it, but it actually gets some little propagation jumps sometimes, and I actually hear the music over my noise floor. I'm hearing it now. This is crazy. Antarctica, 15476, guys. Check it out. Upper sideband. Jason VE9JMC got it faintly here in New Brunswick. So this is from the Arcangel San Gabriel Argentinian base in Antarctica that we're hearing right now. Jason says gray line propagation. Yeah, it's possible. I don't know where's the exact location of that base. K1161. We used a VIC-20 with an AMSOFT cartridge. Yeah, I used that the SWL cartridge on my Commodore 60, my Commodore 128 back in the day. No, I did not record Matt. I was doing some FT8, so I didn't record the guy, but maybe I should next time. He's been popping up here, and he's clearly got a American accent. And he rants about FT8 and how, we're not real hams and blah, blah, blah. And he tries to interfere by talking over the FT8 channel. I heard him on 17 meters. I've heard him on 12 meters. And this morning it was on 10. So it's pretty crazy. Jasmine, a friend of mine found a new Commodore in the box, Commodore 64 trip store for $30. Oh, yeah. Matt says, we had a Commodore 64 that was used through college. Then my professors hated my Don Matrix printed reports. Oh, man. King and DXer only heard of Nintendo 64 before. Mr. Wagner cannot hear noise. Matt says, I noticed that the PL600 no longer appears for sale. Discontinued, I have to assume. Yeah, it's possible. It had a pretty good run. It's been sold for such a long time. Darren Rogers, nice to have you here. Says, I'm hearing a DX program on 15770. I think it's Glenn Hauser. Danielson, nice to have you here from Melbourne, Australia, listening to a shortwave broadcast on 15770, talking about the Bouvet Island and shortwave transmission stations. Cool. ADK, not many new radios being made like the past few years. Yeah, it's a little quieter now. Definitely. John Meckham, Michelle, have you seen the various little military type small pocket portables such as the Ready FR 750, Rongda HRD 701, AM FM shortwave, and weather band with MP3 player? Yeah, I've seen some of them. I'm not very fond of buying another one because all the ones that I purchased in the past so crappy in performance. Fedwall just tuned in on 15476 upper sideband and am indeed hearing audio fading up at times in Seattle. Before that, was listening to AWR via Sri Lanka 12060. Pretty cool. Radio Cruncher 15476 dead. Mike WX50 listening to 15476 on the Uruguay QSL. Neil, I think I can just make out music on 15476, but very, very low. Sean Harvey, Antarctica on 15476 with good signal on the Ottawa, Ontario QSL. So here it comes up. Yeah, USB, Keegan. Here it comes up barely above the noise floor from time to time on my Yaesu. I don't hear it on the... So that's where you see the different performance on some frequencies. On 15476 or on a 19-meter band, my Yaesu on the NFET V gets better performance than my MLE30 here. So you see the difference. So this is kind of interesting. Hearing it directly on my radio, very faint, but it's there. That's kind of exciting. So no luck for Keegan DXer with the W6LVP loop indoors. Yeah, 15770 should be WRMI usually, for sure. Matt says, for those interested, XFM intends to broadcast on 4185 or 4080 in Sequem stereo at 01 UTC. So we'll be checking out those frequencies later tonight. That's for sure. ADK, any news on what's replacing the ICOM R30? For now, there doesn't seem to be anything replacing it. I haven't seen any news about anything replacing it. And it didn't have a run that was very long too. So I think they didn't get as much sold as they probably expected. E3IEK, David says, an observation I made is that most, if not all, of the Bouvet DQRM came from here in Europe and from North America. As far as I know, no Asian hams, such as from China or Japan, behave that way. True. Definitely. Horizontal Crafters Kitchen, very weak signal here in Massachusetts on 15476. Music, but lots of noise. Over at Cross, I can hear slight music on 15476 on the shortwave 77. DBS C777, nice to have you on board from Connecticut, KC1 PSK. Nice to have you here. So it's pretty neat to see that there's a slight reception here and on the Yaesu receiver. I'm gonna switch this camera here a little bit more so you guys see the screen. So I'm getting it's very weak though. Very, very, very weak. Not even enough to punch a hole through the waterfall here. Almost seems to be gone. It's as if I don't hear it anymore right now. It really comes up in waves. Pretty surprising. Pretty surprising. Oh, I'm hearing music again now. Definitely hearing stuff. So it's kind of cool. Ryan Bassett, nice to have you here. W1NU in Massachusetts. Greetings. The FCC does investigation and rulemaking. They prioritize their, the problem is they don't have enough people. So they prioritize what is the most important, which is broadcasters that complain about FM pirates, Kevin in New Jersey. Kevin in, in New Jersey is getting 6070. Bill, B17, this is what happens when you get zoned out of, I guess, an SDR software and totally miss 2 full hours of broadcast on YouTube. Candy Glass, nice to have you here. I can almost make out music on 15476 here in Northeast New England using wire antenna connected to the H501X. Anthony France, very weak in the noise, 15476 in Florida. Your music, weak on QSDR in North Carolina. So pretty cool. So pretty cool. Let's see. I haven't checked the space weather page for the corrected solar flux. Out of curiosity here. Space weather. So what did they put as solar flux? They're still at that number of 343, which is a wrong number here. They should update that usually. They should be updating that for sure. But quiet conditions seem to be very quiet. K index at 2 isn't too bad right now. So isn't too bad at all. Radio country's got nothing on the ICOM. I see 7800 fired up. N6RLS in Berkeley, California. Nice to have you here. Matt says solar flux at 167. Yeah, that would be pretty much what it is normally. 167. Robert Cross can slightly hear it on the Shortwave 77. So, hey, Neil in the UK, are you still there? We can maybe try again the FT8 stuff. See if by any chance I can hear you. I'm going to IPO here. Well, look at that. There's a CW contest. Look at all the CW signals appearing on the Yaesu here in that display. All of that here is all CW. So let's see if okay, you're at the NOAA site directly, which is actually probably the best place to be to get the actual numbers. Take care, Art. Stay safe. Okay, so Neil, I'm going to be, we're going to do an experiment, guys. I'm just going to remove this wire here from this and try to, we're going to do an experiment. I'm going to actually call CQ on FT8. And if we lose audio or whatever, I'm going to say goodbye right now in case it does happen, because I'm not sure on 40 meters if it's going to happen or not. So I'm going to call CQ on 40 meters. So maybe you can check out for my CQ. It's going to be a CQ DX. I'm going to do. So I'm going to go here and do a CQ DX. Okay. And if we lose everything, well, I'll say goodbye right now. If not, at least we'll be on again. So let's go here. I'm just going to put DX here. There we go. So I'm going to call DX, CQDX, and I'll use the full power here. So we're going to test it out actually right now. I'm just going to find an empty spot. There we go. I'm going to be in the very high part, around 20. I'll be at 2442. So I'll be pretty high. 2442. So, and I'm transmitting even. I'm just curious to see if it can do anything to the console.